All right. Okay, so if you'll go to the back of your packet, all the way back, I numbered them this time. So, but the last two pages aren't really numbered. So if you'll go to the back, you'll have your color sheet here, and you have this page. Okay, so these we're gonna start making these little cheat sheets, because after a while we're gonna put them all in a little pouch, and you'll have them and you can carry them with you. Because I think the next 2 or 3 lessons are going to be things that we really want to be able to master, but also need reminders for in the future. So we're going to start having our little reminders. And so we're going to make a few zines. So we're going to start with your zines. Now, yours should work out just fine, but also if it doesn't, my main goal was to get you to make your own. So you could write what you wanted on it. So even if you make it with me, we're gonna make a separate one with blank paper. So with either pager you use, whichever one you choose, fold it in half, not the long way, like the hamburger way. Okay, so we have them in half, and then we're gonna fold them again in half. Sorry.
Check and see if that.
Oh yes, I think so. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay.
We're folding now?
Yes, we're folding now. Okay, so we have. That's what happens when Dave moves through the house. Like he moves to a separate room and we have to have all of that function. When I go anywhere, when nobody moves. Okay, so we have our hamburger style. You're using this one, which is at the back of your packet. Fold it in half with the words out. But if you don't like the way I wrote them, which you probably won't because my handwriting is like really horrible, make your own. So we're folded in a hamburger style, fold it in half. And you want to make your creases like pretty strong. So if I had my bone folder here, I would use that, but I don't. So use your scissors to make the creases as tight as you can. Okay, and then you're going to make it, pull it one more time. Okay, everybody got to that part? Good. Okay.
Turn your.
Okay, and really be set down really well. You can make all your cheat sheets this way for anything. Okay, so now we have it like this. So here's what we folded it so far. We had the big piece of paper, and we folded it hamburger style. And then we're going to just fold it over. And now you're going to have it a little book like this. Yeah, but it's not a book, so we're going to make it a book. So we open it all the way back up again. And get the folded side towards you. So here's the open side that's away from me. That way. Keep that one away from you. And the folded side that's together towards you. I'm going to do it on this one too. So it would be looking like this for both pages. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one, which is on the back. Folded one towards you. And then you're going to just cut from here, this middle, to here. Like right. Oops, sorry about that.
6, 7. Why is your 6, 7 in a different spot than mine?
I don't think it will be. It's the same one I made the copy. Okay, so you're going to cut right on that line, right up until the very middle, right where they meet. It's going to look like this. And remember, the open thing is away from you and the folded one is towards you. Okay. And do it again. So we've got the folded one. We've got the open one in the back out towards us. We've got the folded one towards us. And we're going to cut from the edge up to the middle. Just like that.
You're doing a blank one, not the one that you have in the packet?
Yeah, I'm doing a blank one because my writing is really bad and I'm pretty sure everyone wants to rewrite them in their own handwriting. So I gave the
Okay.
notes here anyway, just in case. But I just wanted to make sure we made a new one for people to write their own. Okay, so now we have these. So I'm going to use this one because it's got the words on it. But then that doesn't really help anything. So you're going to have your little mouth looking thing here. Okay. And then you're going to fold it this way and it's going to be a long way. And then you're going to have your little mouth thing coming up like this. So here it is laying flat. You pick it up on the long ends here, pinch it at the end, and then squish it together. You've got a little mouth going on here, all the way together. And then you're going to pull them together. And that's going to make your little book. Okay.
I cut the wrong spot.
How? Because I said it a million times.
Well, let me show you. When you were looking, I was saying your numbers are in different places than ours. You had 6 and 7 back and forth here, and it's like I thought you were cutting there. But you're wanting to cut on the, you said on the, I don't get it.
Cut on the folded side.
Maybe everybody else is getting it, but I'm not.
Okay. So you have your piece of paper. You have your regular piece of paper. I'll do another one. You have a piece of paper. You fold it hamburger style. Okay. Then you're going to fold it in half again. And then you're going to fold it in half again. Sandy, did your book turn out right? I made Sandy's early. I think hers turned out right. We saw it last night. It was the same. It's the same one I have in the packets. Okay, so now they
Where
look
we-
like this. What'd you say, Dave? Okay, now we're opening it up and we're going to have it long ways again. I mean, the hamburger way. And the flap is going to be out, not towards you. The folded edge, here's my folded edge, is towards me. Now here's my folded edge all the way here.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm going to cut from my folded edge up to the middle.
Ah, that's where I missed it.
Okay. Yeah. So my folded edge is still here. And then I cut up to this point. And then I have
Okay.
my ending out. Okay. Okay, and then you're going to turn it hot dog ways. This way. And then you're going to push them together. And you're going to have like a 4-page carousel looking thing here.
I see.
Okay. And then fold them together and they're going to make the book. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Did you cut another place?
Did I cut in another place? No, that's it.
Yeah.
So with these, it looks like we would have folded it in half this way. So we have 7, 4, 6, and 5 on one side, and on the other side we have 1, 2, 3. We have 1, 2, 8, 2, 3, 8, and 1. I've got numbers 3 and 4 over here. That's part of the list. So be careful that you don't use that 3. Okay, so we have those folded. Then I fold it again. And then I fold it again. With the ones that I already made, you might have to like switch it around to make sure that you get it. And if we're cutting on that one, we're got that folded edge here. This is closed. This is open. And then you're going to open it and squish it together and fold it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did we get it? And your blank one would be the same. You've got your hamburger style. And then you fold it again. And then you fold it again. And then once you get it all creased really well, you open it all back up again. And you have your hamburger style again. And the opening is away from you. The fold is towards you. And you cut right up the middle to where the 4 corners meet. And you open them and squish it together.
When you did it with the one with the words on it, did you have the words out or did you
I
fold it
have the
away?
words out.
Okay.
Okay. Roll past again. Anyone have a specific question? So here's the page that you got. Fold it in half. Fold it in half again. And fold it in half again. And then you open it all the way back up. Fold it hot dog style. Stand it up. You're going to have a little mouth there. Squish it together. And then on this side here, there's a 1. So make sure that one's on the top. So then you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Any questions? Right? That's exactly what we do. Yes. How many times have we just had hot dog style and hamburger style and teaching? Yes. Like forever. Okay. So you probably don't like my zine because my writing's not very good. And so do your own and just copy those onto your own. And then you'll have your writing, which will be better for you anyway. Or you can just use mine. But at least that's a way for, oh, and I forgot to tell you this too. You can also, when you get done with it, you can open it back up again and you can write in here. And that just means you'll have to open it up to look what it is, but it gives you extra space. So if you're still on one lesson, you wouldn't put them all together. Okay. All right. So those are your cheat sheets for tonight. Here is your color sheet. And if you're not really into coloring, don't forget that we can do our neurographic art. So if let's say you don't want to be coloring, and let's just start on our arrow here. Start with just making circles and X's and circles and X's, and then just come up with all kinds of different shapes, polka dots. You can put suns in there. You can put rainbows in there. You can put faces in there. Just do some neurographic art. When that will balance your brain and you'll be able to retain anything we say today. So either color or do some neurographic art here. So this one's a really good one because it has, it's kind of a closed in one. So you can just do a couple of different have little different sections and stay with the same pattern in the individual sections. Like I'm putting little circles in that one, and I'm gonna put little X's in this one. I'm gonna put little rainbows in this one, or half circles. And then you will have your balanced brain and retain everything that's going on. All right. So now we get to go to the meat of the conversation here. This is one of my favorite ones because this is the way our unconscious works, and we really don't take time to figure that out. So we're mastering our stories today. So at the very beginning of the movie, Little John asked Robin, I was just wondering, are we the good guys or the bad guys? And that's the whole theme of our whole study here is where do we put each person in our story that we're telling ourselves? Because everything we do and everything we say and every choice we make is wrapped up in a story that's inside our head. So if we can figure out how to hear our story, then we can retell the story that we want to hear, which will make us have the opportunities for things to come out the way we would like it to. We can't control over the people, of course, but we can control ourselves. And that's really all we need to be healthy and sane most of the time. Okay, so this chapter discusses how to manage emotions by recognizing and controlling the stories we tell ourselves about what's happening. Often our emotions come not from the facts, but from the stories we create around them. When it matters most, we often do our worst, and we are our own worst enemies. Why? Because our stories are self-defeating. If you haven't worked on yourself a good deal, your natural inclination for your brain, remember, is Velcro for bad and Teflon for good. And our brains are still built that way, even though we don't need them that way anymore. They still are. So that means our stories are going to inevitably be negative or self-defeating stories, because that's the way our brain is wired for safety. Does that make any sense in today's world? No, but our brains are still that way. So let's first look at why people react emotionally and why the same circumstances may trigger different responses in different people. When we see or hear something, we create a story about it and why it happens. And then we decide if it's good or bad. And these affect how we feel, which affects how we act. Okay, one more time. So when we see or hear something, we create a story about it and why it happens. And then we decide if it's good or bad. And then once we decide if it's good or bad, that affects how we feel, which then affects how we act. So when you go, I don't know why I don't know why I was so upset about that, or I can't believe I just did that. It's because you have this whole story going along in your unconscious, and it created that reaction because of the story that's rolling in our head. So if you've had trauma in the past, or you are fighting with something, a depression or anxiety, all of that plays into your stories, and your unconscious is well aware that you have those things. And so it uses it, but not usually in a positive way. So we're going to try and retrain how we think our stories, and that way things will come out smoother on the outside. So master my stories. How to stay in dialogue when you are angry, scared, or hurt. Key understanding. Emotions are from you or me. No one gives us emotions, nor can they cause them. You choose to act or be acted on by emotions. It is in that space, sometimes a very tiny space, to choose that. This is the key to master your stories. So we've got our diagram down here. We see and hear facts, quote facts, events. We tell ourselves a story. We have feelings because of the story we tell, and then we act upon them. Okay, so you can change the story and reinterpret the facts and the events, thus changes the feelings and the actions. So it helps to look backwards at sometimes with when something happened and you don't know why it happens that way or why you reacted the way you did, you want to go in reverse. So I acted this way. So if we jump down to the very bottom of page 2, it's our action is we're silent or violent. So if you're at the person that explodes, that would look like the violence. If you're the person that retreats and is silent, then that's what that action looks like. So, and then there's all those in between. So silence or violence is the definition of the actions. And it may be that you ignore somebody. It may be that you say something under your breath, but all of those fit inside that. Okay, so why am I silent or violent? What am I feeling? What story am I telling myself? And what evidence do I have for this story? Are there facts or specific events that can prove my feeling correct? Okay, it's confusing yet, but it's going to clear up in a second. Okay, no one can make us upset. Our feelings are a result of how we react to others. So we make ourselves upset. So we have these clever stories that run around in our head, and they're not really that clever, but our brain thinks they are. They allow us to feel good about behaving badly, even while achieving abysmal results. So if the group of us that are reading this, most of us has worked really hard on ourselves. So I would say most of us don't really need this lesson for themselves. But I think we all need this lesson when we're dealing for others that we don't understand their behavior. So instead of saying, do I do this, which I want us to do, because we always need to be self-aware. We always need to be checking to make sure that we're being the best we can be. I believe it's more important for those of us that have been working on ourselves to know what's going on in other people's head and why they may be responding that way. So for this session, we're learning mostly about controlling ourselves and what we do. The next session, we're still going to use this, but we're going to learn how to observe the other people so we can tell what stories they're telling themselves. And sometimes it doesn't mean we still control them, but at least we'll understand where they're coming from. And if we slip in a few targeted statements, then maybe we can bring them back to reality instead of kind of going off the deep end. So our 3 clever stories that trip us up to watch for. And remember, it's happening in our head, but it's also happening in the other person's head that you're talking to. It's not my fault. I'm the victim. It's all their fault. They are the villain. I'm helpless in this situation. And then you need to check your heart if your feelings or stories come down to these answers. Okay, so here's our big questions. This is a part that you would, if you have your blank page, you might want to write this down or at least highlight this one. These are the ones that you really need to focus on. Is this completely true? What evidence do we have that that is true? And have we checked all the evidence, not just some of them, or just those facts that build up these clever stories? How are you protecting yourself from your own issues, stories, and feelings? What new stories based on evidence could help? So if we look at what story we're telling ourselves and we say, this is not helpful because I'm in the state of anger or hurt or anxious or whatever it is, wherever we are in an emotion that we don't want to be, we want to try and find out backwards what got us there. So if we can revamp those stories, our victims become actors able to take action. Our villains become humans who are as sinful and loving as any human. And our helpless become capable of taking action instead of retreating and freezing. So to break the cycle, the best way is to retrace your steps, pause what you're doing, and then retrace from the end back to the beginning. So we see and hear our facts and events. What are they? We tell ourselves our story. What is the story we're telling ourselves? Then we have our feelings about it. What feelings does this raise up for you? And then we have actions. What is the actions you want to take? Okay. And then we're going to go backwards one more time. So am I repeating that? Yes, we are. I am repeating this because we're going to try and get this in at least 3 times in your subconscious, and then it'll be locked in there. So here's our retrace. So look in reverse. Why am I in silence or violence? Why am I anxious? Why am I mad? Why have I shut the door on that person? Whatever it is that your actions are happening at the moment. And then we ask, what am I feeling? And then what story am I telling myself? And then what evidence do I have for this story? Am I actually showing facts and events as they truly are? Or am I telling myself a new story that's causing the problem? So check your heart, and your clever questions are, is this completely true? What evidence do you have? Have you checked all the evidence, not just the one you picked out to prove your point, or just focusing on just the facts to support the clever stories? How are you protecting yourself from your own issues and stories and feelings? So remember, let's think about memory for a second. Memory is not very reliable. So we may remember something from the past, but mostly how we feel and what we remember is because we're making a story fit the emotion that we have for it. So let's say I'll just use something that's not true. Let's just say I'm really angry at my uncle, which I don't even have an uncle. So I'm really angry at my uncle for not letting me ride the horse when I was 10 years old. I'll never forgive him for that. And I don't feel competent or able to do things that scare me because he wouldn't let me ride that horse. So stupid example, but that's pretty much the way our brains work that way. So when I look back and I start remembering it, I can tell all the different little things around it to prove why I'm upset and angry at that person. And most of the time, if we'll just stop and say, okay, wait, what's really true? What's the fact? Now, how do I feel about the true fact? And most of the time, it's not as upsetting as what we were doing. Okay. What new stories based on evidence could help? Victims become actors, villains become humans, helpless become able. So we're going to tell the remaining story and fill in the missing details. So separate the fact from the story by focusing on behavior, what is observable. So if the 60 Minutes camera crew replayed this scene on national television, how would you look? What would they tell about your behavior? Okay, now it just popped in my head. Dave and I just watched the Frost or the Nixon Frost interview or the Frost Nixon interview, one or the other. And I think we recorded it, so I don't think it was on Netflix, but it should be. If you get a chance to watch that, it's really fascinating. But the most fascinating part about it is if you watch their body language. Even if you don't listen to what they're saying, if you just turn the TV completely down and watch it, you can tell exactly what's happening just by watching their body language. So if you get a chance to watch that between now and our next session, I think that would be really helpful. And then we have one other thing that you might want to watch in between, because our real goal is to be able to observe other people. And if we can catch them before they go to that silence violence place, and we can pull them back into dialogue, then our world's going to be a much nicer place. And that's not the way our world is behaving right now. So this is I wish everyone in the world would be able to read through this book and story, because it would help a lot. But we're just going to worry about our little part of the world and what we can control in our place. So different perspectives of your stories can make them become constructive. Specifically, convert victim to actors, be aware of your role in the situation, and take responsibility for the mistakes that you have made. And when things are heated, because that's what a crucial conversation is, remember, it's high stakes, differing opinions, and high emotions. So if we have those 3 things together, that's what we're really looking at when we're looking at these things. So let me see if I drew that. I drew it quickly. I think I drew it towards the back. Remember that that pyramid that if you've been with me for a while, you probably know this one really well. But we have that, yeah, something you can see. We have that Bermuda Triangle of relationships. We have the Bermuda Triangle of relationships. So we have 3 spots, and typically there's only 2. It's only a 2 people are on it. There's 3 spots. So we have the victim spot. We have the rescuer spot. And then we have the persecutor spot. Okay, so 2 people. So if you're on this triangle and you're playing the victim, you really hurt my feelings, you don't care about me, you ignored me when whatever. So you're playing the victim. The other person has only 2 choices. They can either be a persecutor and make you feel worse about yourself, or they can rescue you and enable you. So no good spots on this triangle. And if we're stepping on it, we're just going to be trading places, because once the persecutor starts giving you a harder time, then they revert back to an old pattern. And then you start rescuing that because you can see the relationship spiraling, and then they become the victim, and then you turn into the persecutor. So it's like this big, huge mess, which is what happens. So whenever you get into an argument, you don't know why in the world, or a conversation, you don't know why in the world it went that bad. It's because we're on that Bermuda Triangle for relationships. Okay. Mastermind Stories focuses on how people interpret events and assign meaning to them, which influences their emotions and actions. And in this book, it explains why we create stories in our minds, whether villain, victim, or helpless stories, and that mastering these stories helps us navigate conversations and conflicts effectively. So we're using Robin Hood. I love that story. We use Robin Hood. Here's way it plays out. Okay, so the villain stories is about blaming others. So when we're blaming others, we've got ourselves a villain story going in our head. Prince John is literally the epitome of that. Probably couldn't have picked a better movie for this particular chapter. Prince John tells himself a villain story where Robin Hood is the criminal and is a threat, justifying his excessive taxes and oppressive rule. The Sheriff of Nottingham also buys into this story, believing that enforcing unfair laws is his duty. And you know, if you're watching the animated Disney version, it looks cute because the characters are cute. But if you're like really thinking about the story of that's a really sad story. Like they are all in prison towards the end and have no money and no homes, just because he was ruthless and was telling himself a villain story. In reality, Robin Hood is helping the poor, but Prince John and the sheriff refuse to see the other person's perspective. They're stuck there. So the victim stories. Now here's the deal. What can you do if someone else that you deal with on a regular basis blames others and plays the villain story? So they've got the villain story in their head all the time. It's always they did this to me, or they're in the wrong, and that's the why I can't do anything. So the victim stories, which should be what Robin Hood and all the people are, we can turn those stories around. So Prince John constantly plays the victim, blaming his insecurities on his mother and whining about how everyone disrespects him. Dave and I were talking last night. Have you ever met a more irritating person in your whole entire life than Prince John? Like they did the most perfect job to me, but making him so annoying and irritating. And you probably have someone in your life or from the past that's like that. So it probably is probably is a trigger for someone in the past for you. But he's sucking his thumb and he's being a baby and he's crying and he's blaming his mom and he's blaming Robin Hood and he's blaming everyone. So he's got the villain story about everybody else. He's got the victim story about himself. and refuses to take responsibility for his cruelty, instead making himself seem like he is the one who's being wronged the whole time. So now we have our helpless stories, claiming that there's no other choice. Robin Hood could tell himself a helpless story. The rich are too powerful. We can't fight back. We just have to lay down and die. But instead, he chooses to act and change the situation. Little John and the townspeople could also feel helpless under Prince John's rule, but they support Robin Hood's efforts instead of giving up and mastering their stories. Robin Hood and his allies reinterpret the situation, realizing that they have the power to resist injustice rather than seeing themselves as victims. And in contrast, Prince John never masters his stories. He remains blinded by his false narratives and is ultimately overthrown because of it. And our key takeaway is the film highlights how we interpret events, how we look at events and facts, which affects our emotions and choices. Robin Hood succeeds because he tells himself an empowering story, while Prince John fails because he clings to false, destructive narratives and his helpless victim story. So when we shift to operating from a place of openness, love, possibility, and curiosity, we move into a creative mindset. We move from being oriented primarily towards safety, which usually keeps us stuck and stagnant, to being pulled by purpose and vision. We let go of needing to be right, wanting to be liked, and vulnerable, accept the risk associated with that. When a leader operates from a creative mindset, they're more effective, more inspiring, and happier. So when we're talking about leading, you can be leading your family, you can be leading your group of friends, you can be leading your classroom, you can be a leader in business, you can be president of the United States. Whatever it is, all of these roles fit perfectly. So we're going to take a little break from Crucial Conversations, the book, which is what we just looked at, and we're going to move into this website. Zach has probably seen this website. It's called www.bringthedonuts.com, and their goal is to create a better triangle, because we're still going to stay on a triangle, but we're going to move to a positive look at triangles here. And I really enjoyed the way they reinterpreted the words that Crucial Conversations gave. So we're going to study a little bit from Stephen Cartman's drama triangle, but also stay within the framework of this bringthedonuts.com. And he's a funny guy. I really enjoy this one. Okay, so the three dramatic roles. The first key is making a shift, and that means awareness. So the first thing we have to do is to be aware and present. So biggest thing in the world, aware and present. And that's what we do when we're studying Eastern religion. That's what we're doing when we're studying West Christianity religion. That's what we're doing when we're doing anything with our jobs or anything in our family, or being present with our dogs. Whatever it is, being present and aware of the moment that you're in is the most important thing to do. So where am I right now? Am I anchored to my own security? Am I driven by fear? If you're anxious, I want to highlight that one, because that's where we come from. If it's anxiety, we're usually driven by fear. Are we suppressing our emotions and seeing everything as a problem and a threat? Or am I in a place of openness, vulnerability, possibility, and purpose? And just by reading those sentences, you can tell how differently the situations would look if you've with those two focuses. So when we're operating reactively, we often respond to the environment by taking on one or more of the three different ways to seeing the world. So the psychologist Stephen Cartman also loved theater, and he's the one that came up with the drama triangle. And then future psychologists came up with the Bermuda Triangle. So it's basically the same thing. So he was the first to describe this in the 1960s. And Cartman loved the dramatic arts and was a member of the Screen Actors Guild at one point. So recognizing that these are roles we are playing, he called it the drama triangle. Finding yourself playing one of these roles like a stage actor, donning a mask is the first step toward building the awareness that we seek. So the big sentence here is, which mask are you wearing? Hopefully, we're in a place of openness, vulnerability, possibility, and purpose. So then you won't be wearing these masks. But if that's not the place we're in, then we're in one of these places. So the hero is the rescuer. So this dives deeper than the crucial conversations theory does. And all of these roles can be helpful or hurtful. So our goal is to make sure if we decide that we're in one of those roles, how can we do it for the best benefit of ourselves and who we're with? So the hero or the rescuer wants to jump in and relieve the situation temporarily. The hero is often motivated by wanting to be right and therefore optimizes for a quick fix that makes the problem go away. Yes, I do. I believe hero is absolutely codependent. Perfect word for that. Thank you. Absolutely. So thinking about codependency, which is so hard, and I know it's a bottomless well, but if you're codependent, we would want everyone to be happy and good and doing the right thing and not mad at us. And how can we fix this? And how can we make this better right away? So what that does is fix the moment, barely, but it just makes everything else worse. And it's just a never-ending spiral downward. So in this situation, what we would think was a good thing is not really a good thing. Really, what they're saying is, let's put the Band-Aid on this right now because I don't like blood. And that's what it is. The hero's actions often result in esteem and acceptance from others. So, we've got really, we're looking at someone that's really insecure, but wants to look really secure. But their heroics are often limited in effectiveness. They don't confront the underlying challenge. In fact, since the hero wants immediate relief, their internal motivations and beliefs can steer them away from even recognizing the real problem. I think we do this with globally in nations. I think once like one of our nasty wars breaks out and we have both sides having different stories, and then another country wants to step in, and a lot of times we'll have one country that will want to just end it right there and stop. And okay, that might help for a moment, but unless we really address what's underneath and like take the time to really get everything sorted out, like we often see, the same wars happen over and over and over again. So it would be lovely if we could like get to the root of the situation, get everybody situated and having at least a fair equity of whatever it is they're asking for. And then maybe we can go more than a few years without another breakout. So if you ever had an acquaintance interrupt you with pithy advice before you have even finished describing your situation, you've met the hero. If you've ever had a boss grab the work out from under you to do it themselves, you've met the hero. A hero also loves to jump in the middle of a dispute and smooth things over in a way that merely cools the situation without confronting or even acknowledging the real differences of opinion, allowing them to simmer and explode again at a later date. This happens in sessions sometimes. I think couples get mad at me sometimes because I will let an argument go longer than I think they would like it to go. But the real healing comes whenever you find out what's all underneath that. And then you can find that one story that each person is telling, and then weave back a different story where both people are the heroes in a good way, not the rescue way. So it's a very uncomfortable way to work out a problem. And it's uncomfortable for me, it's uncomfortable for everyone. But if you don't go down that road, then you're not going to be able to really fix the problem. It's really just going to put a Band-Aid on top of it. Okay, the villain. The villain or the persecutor operates from a place of blame. This is my least favorite personality style. And I have someone in my family like that, and it is the most strong trigger to me that can ever happen. They want to figure out who's at fault point the finger their way, and sometimes they blame themselves, usually guided by saboteurs or inner critics. So those of us that have guilt trips, unfortunately, we fit into this. So if you're always giving yourself a hard time and blaming yourself, you're a villain to yourself. You have to really need to remember that one. Most of the time, they throw somebody else under the bus, though. In other cases, there's a vague, undefined they who is behind everything. Like you'll see that with extremist movements around the world. They caused this. They made this happen. Nobody can say who the they is, but it's the they. If you found yourself in the middle of an us versus them situation at work, you've met at least one villain and possibly more than one. If you find yourself on the receiving end of a gossip about someone else, you might be talking to a villain. And if someone constantly blames leadership or the higher ups or engineering for every conceivable problem, you guessed it, there's the villain. Okay, so now we start looking at, and I think the crucial conversations didn't go that deep into something, but I really think this is really the most important part, because what looks good on the outside can also cause harm deeper. Victim. The victim is motivated by fear and is at the effect of the world around them. They are pursuing safety and security above all else. There are a million reasons why they are the real victim of a person, circumstances, or condition. There's not enough time. Nobody listens. It's impossible. Nobody will help me, or I was never shown how. The victim operates from a place of powerless and helplessness. I was set up to fail from the beginning. We're never given enough data. I'm not allowed to talk to customers. I'm asked to do the impossible. Okay, so those are our three, hero, villain, and victim. Okay, now we're going to take a little bit of a break, take a big deep breath, and we're going to listen to this because this is really important. Warning, we want to pause here to make a really important point. The victim role isn't meant to describe someone who is actually powerless, being manipulated or abused, but rather someone feeling or acting as if they are when they are not. In fact, accusing someone else of playing victim or gaslighting them is a classic villain move. So when someone is really being abused and they really are a victim, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about healthy, functioning people that are stuck in a really bad behavior problem. The drama triangle is best used as a tool for understanding one's own perspective in a self-development or coaching setting. It shouldn't be introduced to teams or organizations without a lot of psychological safety and an experienced hand guiding the process. It can easily be misused or even weaponized against vulnerable populations. So that's probably why we don't include it in the Crucial Conversations book, because it can be off the deep end. But I really think it's important to study that, because I think otherwise we just skim the surface. Okay, so here is Bring the Donuts. I still love that name. This is their diagram. So in the middle, we have the drama triangle. We have right, blame, and fear. Okay, we have hero, villain, and victim. So the hero seeks temporary relief. They want to put a Band-Aid, stop the bleeding. For you, I can help. It'll be okay. Let me take over. And counselors can get that way. That's an easy way for a counselor to like slide into something, but it's not helpful that way. It needs to be worked through so that the person can figure out what it is, and then they're the one that's in control, not someone telling you how to behave or how to act. So the villain story, blame self or others. So remember, you can be a villain to yourself. It's my fault, you're wrong, who's to blame, they won't let us. And then the victim is at the effect of, I don't have enough time, there's nothing I can do, it's too hard, I have to. I can slip into that. I can definitely slip into that one. And then you, all of a sudden your shoulders are drooping, you're sad, you lose interest in the things that make you happy. And then if you let it go, you can slip into a depression. So that's really the scary part, is like staying in one of these long enough really does send you into a depression or anxiety or a panic attack or any of those. So making the shift, here's the positive part. This is a staggering thing. Remember how I'm saying 98% of what we do, think, and say is unconscious. That's a staggering true statement. This is a scary true statement. 90% of people spend 90% of their time operating from the drama triangle. 90%, here it is. I knew I drew it. 90% of the people spend 90% of their time on this triangle, moving from spot to spot. Victim, persecutor, rescuer, victim, persecutor, rescuer. So if you have the same argument over and over and over again, you're on the triangle. If you never feel heard or someone always feels blamed by you, you're on the Bermuda Triangle. 90% of people spend 90% of their time there. Is that not frightening? And that's why we have the world we have in. Okay. Like anything we do from a reactive mindset is costly. It's ineffective over the long term, exhausting, demotivating, and endlessly limited. The first step, moving away from the drama triangle, is awareness. There are many different ways to notice you're operating from a reactive mindset, and more will become accessible with practice. Often there's an unprocessed negative emotion such as resentment, apathy, or anxiety. So this is what I really want us to, so somewhere either highlight that or write it in the inside of yours, or write it on where, make a little circle right here, no matter where you are, make a little cloud so you can put this in there. And then write resentment, apathy, or anxiety. So when you find yourself kind of caught up in that and awareness is really not within your grasp, then you are moving from a place of resentment, from apathy, or from anxiety. And that keeps us from being aware of the present moment and being aware with what's going on. So the first thing is awareness. Once you've noticed it, you acknowledge it. I'm in the drama triangle, or the Bermuda Triangle of relationships. So the first one is awareness. The second one is claim it and own it. I'm there. And the third one is presence. Presence simply means being consciously aware of the here and now, what is here at this moment. Presence is non-judgmental state of acceptance, welcoming whatever may be here. Take a few intentional breaths, meditate, walk outside, listen to nature, listen to music, pause, change your posture, get curious, laugh. Get yourself into the place where you can just be non-judgmental and completely aware of the moment. So once you are fully present, take a moment to examine the drama triangle and try to understand which role you might be taking. And remember, 90% of the people spend 90% of the time on that drama triangle. And hopefully all of us here are in that 10% that don't, but more than likely we slip there too. So figure out where you are. It might be immediately obvious, or you might be wearing multiple hats, or you might be switching places. Another good question to ask yourself at this stage is whether wanting approval, control, or security might be backing you into one of the corners. So if you really desire approval, you want people to be happy with you all the time, you want people to give you accolades and tell you you're doing a good job, which all of us do to a certain extent. But if that's what our purpose and our drive is, then we're on the triangle. And if we want control, and we're a very controlling person, and it makes us feel good to make sure we have all the people or places in the right thing all the time, then that's on the triangle. Or security. Sometimes we're just so afraid of things changing, and those of us that don't do change really well, we might want security so badly that we stay stuck in that triangle just because what we know feels safer than what we don't know. Okay, so victim to creator. The really awesome thing about looking at it this way is no matter which part we're playing, there's a really great outcome. So we move the victim to creator. So we ask, this research is from David Emerald. For victims, the focus is always on what they don't want. So remember at the beginning of crucial conversations, the first thing we ask ourselves is, what do I want for myself? What do I want for the other person? And what do I want for the relationship? Whether it's your husband or your wife or your partner, or your kid or your parent or your business associate or people that are under you. That's the first things that you ask all the time. What do I want for myself? Not in a bad way, just what do I want? How do I need to feel at the end of this? What do I want for the other person? And what do I want for the relationship? Okay, so victims, though, they focus on what they don't want. I don't want this to happen. I don't want to lose all of our money. I don't want to have an accident. I don't want to fly because the planes are crashing all over the place. So when we start coming from a place of fear, then that really stifles us and we stay stuck. They don't want the person, condition, or circumstance they consider to be their persecutor or villain, and they don't want the fear that leads to the fight, flee, or freeze reactions either. So they just do nothing. They just stay focused on what they don't want. So they don't want the fight. They don't want anything. They stay right where they are. Creators, on the other hand, place their focus on what they do want. Doing this, creators still face and solve problems in the course of creating the outcomes they want, but their focus remains fixed on their ultimate vision. The victim stops complaining and takes responsibility for their own life, becoming the creator. They reframe the response to the world from happening to me to happening from me. And to me, that's one of the next major things. So the world is happening from me, not to me and through me. It's happening from me and through me. The creator leans on authenticity, learning, collaboration, and selflessness. That sentence is how I try to live my life. They really frame that really well. I don't always make it, but I try my very best. So reframe to me, it's happening to me, that it's happening from and through me. Victims focus on scarcity, consider themselves powerless, resist their emotions, defend their beliefs, and don't see choices. Creators claim personal power, focus on possibility, see themselves as powerful, see multiple options, and are comfortable with the unknown. So just think, if we all behave that way, just in our families, what life would look like. How much more peace would we have just in our little part of the world? So here are some questions to ask yourself when making the shift from victim to creator. I love these questions. I literally use this model just because I love these questions so much. Where are there choices in how I see the world? So the world sucks. I don't have any money. I don't like my job. Not me. I love my job. Everybody hates me. I guess I'll go eat worms, from that children's book. That's where that victim comes from. So then we have to stop and look, well, what are my choices and how I see the world? It's busy, it's bustling, changes are happening. We see people moving in the right direction. So look for things that are happening in a good way. What wants to become known? So please take your pen or pencil and write somewhere where you will keep it. And if you really made your booklet, which I really hope you did, then write it on your booklet. Okay, ready? What am I pretending? What am I pretending not to know? What am I pretending not to know? So when you feel kind of stuck and anxious and off balanced, your unconscious is trying to tell you something. That's why it's keeping you that way. And it's trying to tell you something that you're ignoring. So I would say on a daily basis, if you could just say, what am I pretending not to know today? It really changes your whole mindset. So like like an extreme example would be my husband hasn't come home on time for the last 6 months. When I call him, not Dave, this is not, no examples are from me today. He hasn't called. When I call, he doesn't answer my phone.
I was gonna say, make sure that people know that this isn't me.
No, it's not. It's not you. No, no. When I'm using you, I say your name right out loud. No, it's not Dave. But this is really a common occurrence in relationships. Like, things happen, you don't trust, you find occurrences to prove why you're not trusting. And all of a sudden the world looks like what your story you're telling yourself. My husband's cheating. He's a bad person. He's lying. He doesn't answer their phone. Well, he may not be doing what he's supposed to be doing, because he should be answering your phone unless he's like in the middle of a meeting, but that doesn't mean he's cheating. So we get 2 or 3 little things, we put them together, and then we go down this big rabbit hole, and then we're stuck in this really horrible place. This is the part that's important. What am I pretending not to know? Oftentimes when people are in relationships and someone's cheating, the other person knows they're cheating. They're just scampering around, making noise about it, when they really just need to admit it and deal with it. However, most of the time, it's not that way. Most of the time, we found a couple of behaviors that we find questionable, and then we start building the story and finding, quote, facts to prove it. So just be careful. Whenever you feel something's not right, it might be them, but it might be you. So just say, am I being anxious? Am I being uncertain? Am I being the one that's not trusting? Am I being the one that's, playing the victim? Or is someone really doing something to harm me and I need to face it? That's the hard part about everything in these relationships, is that it's hard to face it, because then you have to make change, and change is scary. So the third one is, what might my saboteur or inner critic be guiding me? So it's there and it's loud, and it sends us down a big, deep hole. I'm going to check something really fast. Hold on. Okay, so let's say I'll give a benign example. Let's say there's a relationship and they're planning on getting engaged, and they break up, and the breakup is harder on the guy than it is the girl, and the guy starts to use cocaine or a drug or drink or whatever it is. And so their comment is they're just going to do as much cocaine as they can until they die. So that is an extreme example of what our saboteur or inner critic does. It goes, it's hopeless. Nobody loves me. I guess I should go eat worms. And in this case, cocaine. So that's an extreme example of what your inner critic or your saboteur will do. If things don't turn out right, it starts like jumping off a cliff. What personal values need to be honored or taken a stand for, either yours or maybe someone else's? Where might there be opportunities here for my own growth and learning? And I think a day is a wasted day if we haven't learned something, either about ourselves or someone else, or about a theory, or about something that we've never known before. What old stories am I telling myself, and how might the opposite be true? So this is about you, Dave, now. So let's say Dave made questionable decisions earlier on in our relationship, and he has always had a tough time being honest and telling the truth from as long as he was a little kid. So we worked really hard on our relationship, and I've had to work really hard trusting to get that old story gone. That's not the story of who he is now. He's a really awesome husband, and he does so much for me, and I love him. And I still wish he would cut his hair. And there's still little things, but he's such a really, really good guy, and he's a good husband, and he really cares for me. So that's the story that we have now. But if, like, there'll be a day if something happens and he throws a temper tantrum, I want to go back to that old story and go, you always this, you always that. So just be careful that when someone else is growing, you help them grow and you grow too. That's the biggest thing that we want to look at in that situation. If there were no obstacles or infinite time, what might I do? I love that. I think if we ask ourselves that every day in a journal, that would be really good. Where is there fun to be had, allies to be made, and awe to be experienced? We should ask ourselves that every day as well. I'll make us a really good cheat sheet on these awesome questions too. I'll find us a fun little book to make out of that one, because those are things I think that would be great to stick in a journal and then open up and look at those questions. All right, from hero to coach. Remember, this is Emerald again. Remember the hero when we were studying a little bit before, they jump in, they put a Band-Aid on, they want to be noticed, they want to be said, way to go, you fixed it. Okay, so here's where we can turn that hero into a coach. A coach leaves the power with the creator and seeks only to help facilitate her personal progress. A coach is the embodiment of a creator's desire to share power with another. Coaches don't regard those who turn to them for support as somehow broken or in need of fixing, which is the rescuer or the hero's viewpoint. Instead, a coach helps others see new possibilities, helps them to dare to dream. I believe that I try my best to be that kind of a counselor. I don't ever see anyone as broken or lost or need to be fixed. I always think things are there. They just need to be pulled up and more light shined on the positive parts, and then just let the negative ones wane off. The more we do the positives of something, that negative dwindles. So if we move in the positive direction, it's a lot easier to get rid of the negative ones. The hero stops trying to fix things and becomes the coach. Coaches see everyone as naturally creative, resourceful, and whole, and the agents of their own lives. So true. The coach moves into a support role, helping others create the lives they want and evoking transformation. That, I should just really use that as my motto, because that's literally the way I think. Heroes fix, take, grab hold of, or jump into. Coaches facilitate, guide, let go of, and encourage. And see the difference? It's so easy though, when you want to facilitate, to jump in and here, let me get you there faster. And getting someone there faster is not always the right thing. Sometimes it takes a little while to get to the right place. So here's some questions to ask yourself when making this shift from hero to coach. What if I don't need to be right? Where is there an opportunity for learning? Where might we write a new story? Can I support others in taking 100% responsibility? Where might there be an opportunity to listen? What if my only agenda was supporting others in growth? What questions might I ask others that will open them up to possibility? Those are awesome questions. Okay, our last one is villain to challenger. A challenger calls forth a creator's will to create, often spurring him or her to learn new skills, make difficult decisions, or do whatever is necessary to manifest a dream or desire. The challenger is kind of a teacher who points towards life's lessons. It's really not kind of a teacher, they are kind of a teacher. Toward opportunities for growth embedded in the living of life. The villain stops blaming and becomes the challenger. Challengers bring healthy, positive pressure to others in a way that creates a breakthrough. You know how when we'll just use relationships again. You know, when you know you've had a good, when you've been in a good spot in a relationship before and you feel like you're not there right now, and it seems like you're bothering the other person to be better or to be different. And what we're really trying to say is, how can we be our best and in our best relationship? How can we be our best for ourselves and best for the other person? How can we get back to that place of of intimacy and fun and love and opportunity instead of survival and do as much as we can and get up the next day and do it all over again. So how can we challenge each other to be in better places, which makes both people in a better place? How can I provide loving pressure in a way that creates alignment? What questions or beliefs should we be questioning? How can I be a catalyst for growth? What if the current circumstances just is and no one's fault? And that's the it is what it is thing. What challenges might I give others that will open them up to possibility? All right, and now we have our preferable and triangle that we want to grow towards. We all drift into the drama triangle, all of us. It's human nature. It's the way our brains are made. Our brains evolved to see threats and dangers. Presence is key to shifting out of it and into the empowerment triangle. When you become aware of your current state, bring your attention to the current moment. Lean into curiosity and let go of judgment. You can drop the veil of drama and spark the shift. So here's our personal power, the creator. They're present always. As a coach, they facilitate and inspire self-empowerment. As a challenger, they provoke others to take action. So just think about your personalities and where you would fit in this. Also, in your family, as we are now, because we're really studying family and relationships more than we're studying business, although this is made for business as well. So if you're having issues at work, this would be a good time to do this as well. But as we are here now, look at your family. Maybe it's your extended family too. You know, if you're on your own or if you have children, you know, where do each one of those people seem to come from? And if they come from one of the victim places or the villain places, how can you help them move into an empowerment stage rather than one that wants to fight, flight, or freeze? Okay. And then your color page, just to keep you sane in today's world. Okay. Any questions on any of that? Oh my God. Oh, getting good. Did everybody's book come out okay? All right. Hopefully. Okay. So here's my thing that we're going to do next time. We're going to do chapter 7 in Crucial Conversations. We're going to take it a little slow in chapter 7 because we have a really cool quiz we're going to do, and I'm going to have it ready for you, and we're going to do it all together next time. So that's why I won't add an extra chapter. We're just going to do that next chapter one at a time so we can do it together. But this is the important one to me. I think these two are the most important things in the whole book, and maybe one of the most important things we can learn throughout our whole year is if we can master our stories and see other people's stories, our whole life will change for the better. So we're staying with Robin Hood because the examples still work perfectly, but I would like to invite you to watch on Netflix. There is a series called Younger. You might have already seen the whole thing, but I would like all of us, if you have Netflix, and Dave, you wrote it down for us. What is it? Did you write it in the chat yet?
Season 6, episode 2. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. See, what did you say? Season 6 episode? I'm so
Yeah.
Okay. Season 6, episode 2. And I don't think there's anything like there's not anything rated R in that one. But it leans towards a little bit, but there's nothing. I mean, I wouldn't bring my 3-year-old to watch it, but watch that one. Because if you are a person, okay, Younger on Netflix. Yes. Okay. If you have a chance to go back and watch that whole series and look at it through what we've been learning, it's really, really interesting. I didn't want to watch it at first. Dave was watching it, and I didn't really enjoy it that much to begin with. But then I think once I got into the characters, I really began. They did a really good job, and they put a lot of study and work into characters on that one, and they play really good parts. But specifically on this one, watch their faces and their body language. If you're like me, you might watch facial features and body language too closely. I don't really see how you can watch it too closely, but if anybody can, I do. Dave gives mixed messages all the time. He can say one thing, April, he can say one thing and his face just says something completely different, and that throws me every time. And I can ask him what he meant or why his face looks like that, and he'll say no reason. And that just doesn't settle well for me, because most of the time what you're saying and doing should match your outer experience as well. So if you are one that picks up on emotions, or you're more of an empath, when you kind of feel what people are feeling, or when you look at someone and you can kind of tell where they're coming from, this is what we're going to study for next time. And I love that episode in Younger. That is perfect. But really watch their faces. Like, watch the conversation, and then when they turn around or when they're hugging and no one can see their face, watch what they do. Watch how it changes. And that's what happens, I think, in today's society. We put a certain face on, and then we turn around and we have a different one. Sometimes people see us, sometimes people don't. But that's why people don't understand us, because it doesn't seem like we're genuine or authentic. So we want to really match what we're feeling on the inside, on the outside. And we can do, even if it's a problem, we can do it in a positive way. So that's what our focus is going to be. Any questions or comments at all? So if you didn't get to watch Robin Hood, please go back and watch that one. If you already watched it once, go back and watch it again, because you'll see 9 million more things. And if you haven't had a chance to watch Younger, especially that episode is a really good one. And then we're going to be in chapter 7 of Crucial Conversations. And if you want to read it, go ahead and read it, and you can take the quiz, but we're going to take it together anyway. So you don't really have homework. Your only homework is to work on, well, that's a big homework, is to work on these concepts and to see how you are following along. Are you in the 90% of the people that stay 90% of the time on the triangle? So that's what our focus would be this time. All right, I'm here if you need anything, or if you have questions or comments. Otherwise, thank you so very much for coming, and have a fabulous March. Everybody usually has spring breaks and trips planned. So have a wonderful one. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Next class, Dave, class April 10th?
April 10th at 7.
Yeah, we don't have a very big turnaround. April 10th at 7.
Yeah.
Megan, are you going to be moving on that day?
I'm not going to be moving, but I will be frantically preparing for garage sale pre-move. So
okay, if you can join us,
I might be here.
Okay,
maybe.
Okay. If you can, that would be wonderful. If not,
all right.
No, we'll understand.
That's the goal. But if I'm not here,
that's you. If you just,
I'm probably sitting on the patio drinking a beer, trying to get through prepping for a garage sale.
Good one. Gotcha. All right. Good luck with that. If I can help, let me know.
Oh, thank you. See ya.
All right. Bye, bye, guys. Have a wonderful one.
Bye.